It's been nearly 2 years since I publicly stated in a video here on my channel that I do not believe in manifestation, and it appears that some people on YouTube have thoughts about this. To catch you up to speed if you're new here, maybe you haven't seen that original video or it's been literally over 2 years since you watched it, here's a recap. At one point in time, approximately around the year of 2018, I used to believe in manifestation. I would journal, I would visualize, I would set intentions, I would act as if I did every practice that every manifestation guru on the internet preaches because I was all in, committed to my manifestation journey. But over time, as I started sharing my beliefs with other people, they began asking me questions, which then led to me asking myself my own questions. And the deeper I began to look into my beliefs around manifestation, the more that those beliefs started to unravel for me. Now, in that original video, I broke down why I personally no longer believe that manifestation is a real thing. And while there are many, many reasons why I choose to no longer believe that manifestation is real, I think there's a few key arguments that we can break down and touch on here just to catch you up to speed. Okay, first, and I think most obviously, the thing that really made manifestation fall apart for me is that there's no real concrete or scientific evidence to support that it is a legitimate thing. Most of what I once believed was proof that manifestation is real, I later realized was anecdotal at best, or in many cases, pseudoscience or science that had been manipulated or misunderstood in order to support the idea of manifestation. Second, I think the practice of manifestation, especially the way that it is taught online, can really tend to oversimplify often very real struggles that people are experiencing by trying to turn them into some sort of question of your mindset or your energetics. And not only is that incredibly unhelpful, in my opinion, but it's also very dismissive of the systemic, social, and personal challenges that are often beyond our control. Next, and this is something I stressed a lot in that first video, is that the belief in manifestation, from my perspective, really dismisses personal effort. Manifestation often tends to ignore the very real work and strategy and persistence that's required of us to actually accomplish the things we want in our life. And so if we choose to believe that every accomplishment we have is a result of being in alignment, then what does that say for the people who work really hard towards making their goals happen? They put in all the effort, they have the belief in themselves, and they never accomplish the thing that they want. I think that choosing to believe in manifestation and suggest that those people just didn't believe hard enough or they didn't align themselves energetically can be incredibly harmful. And so I personally don't subscribe to the idea that a lack of results means you just didn't try hard enough, or you didn't believe hard enough, or you had the wrong mindset, yada, 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 yada. And so as a result, I think that that attitude can ultimately lead to some really harmful perspectives, especially when it comes to things like poverty or your financial situation or trauma that you experience. And so to me, it just feels really victim blamey, and the implication, whether intentional or not, can be incredibly damaging. So in today's video, we're going to be going a little bit deeper into my thoughts around this, trying not to make this video too repetitive to the first part of this, but I did want to address some of the comments that came up in that video because there were plenty, and I really would like to keep the conversation going. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So the original video I posted about manifestation was published in February of 2023, so over 2 years ago, and somewhere around May 2024, so a little over 1 year ago, it started to gain some traction in the algorithm and has basically consistently been getting feedback ever since. So as of the day that I'm filming this video, the original video has over 500 comments, and many of those comments do not agree with my thoughts and perspectives, which honestly is something I completely expected because I do think that manifestation can be a pretty polarizing topic for people, which is why I wanted to discuss some of that feedback today. And so let's just jump into what some of those comments were, because I think this was a really interesting and eye-opening experience to me. As someone who obviously makes very opinionated content here on this channel, obviously I don't expect everyone to agree with me. However, I just think that if you are forming an argument against something that someone has said, you should probably provide some level of evidence to support that argument beyond,
I believe this thing is true. You don't know what you're talking about.
and that was kind of a common theme that came up in a lot of these comments. So I will actually just show you rather than tell you about it. So this first comment here reads, "Shaking my head, you actually believe that manifestation is fake. Yikes. The issue is you described it incorrectly because people are teaching it incorrectly, but it is science-backed truth. I have literally called in things over and over again. Do you not understand science? Just say that or go educate yourself." Okay, so I wanted to highlight this particular comment because it demonstrates a key theme that came up in a lot of the comments that disagreed with me, which was super interesting because in this comment, they state that I am wrong, but then they don't really provide any evidence to demonstrate what specifically I am wrong about. And then the second thing that was super interesting, but also came up a lot in many of these comments, is this idea that this comment is referencing the fact that manifestation is science, but they fail to show me what or how or which part is the science. Those of you that have watched my content for any amount of time likely know that I am a huge advocate for constructive discourse and conversation. I think it's super important that people who watch my videos don't just listen to what I say and agree 100% with everything that I publish on the internet. In fact, if you want to have a productive conversation with me and point out the flaws in my argument, I seriously encourage you to do so by leaving comments, messaging me, sending me emails, letting me know what it is you don't agree with. At the end of the day, I'm just a yapping head on the internet. I'm sharing my perspective in hopes that you can listen to it and you can absorb it and you can apply your own discernment and your own critical thinking skills to determine whether or not you want to listen to what I have to say or refute it. And I mean, most of the content here on the channel is just my opinion based on my personal experiences, my perspectives, and beliefs that I once held that I then was presented with different evidence and I was able to change those beliefs. And that's how we ended up where we are today. And so, all that to say, my intention really with going through these comments is hopefully to continue this productive conversation where we can look at some of these counter arguments and I can show you why they aren't convincing to me and perhaps you'll feel differently. And I'm going to share, what exactly I'm looking for, what I need in order to be convinced otherwise, but also open the floor for you watching to share your thoughts, your perspective, and continue the conversation. Hopefully, we can open the space up for constructive discourse from both sides. This isn't about personally attacking anyone. I've removed all of the names of the people who submitted these comments because I really, frankly, don't care. But I do think it is important that we have this conversation. So let's move into the next comment. Nonsense. You manifested the video. You first imagined yourself making it. You did not doubt the image. The faith caused you to take the action necessary to make the video, and now it is made. The action was an effect. The cause of the video was the feeling that the video was already made. Before criticizing ideas, you must first make an effort to understand what it is you are criticizing. Now, this particular comment really stood out to me because to me it gives the impression that the person who wrote it believes that I don't have any understanding of manifestation or that I was never in a position at one point in time where I believed in manifestation. And I mean, OGs here on the channel or anyone who watched last week's video where I react to my old coaching content know that I used to be one of these people that believed in manifestation and talked about it all the time and tried to get other people to believe it too. Remembering that we are the ones who create our realities. We create the things we choose to believe in, whether we consciously acknowledge that or not. And so I actually replied directly to this comment when it was left, and I'll just read you my response. You're describing goal setting and follow through, both common concepts in psychology and behavior science. Yes, I had an idea, I believed in it, and then I took action to make the video. That's not proof of manifestation. That's how human motivation, planning, and execution work. This video is a few years old, but I am almost certain I share the fact that I too used to believe in manifestation. Critiquing it doesn't mean I don't understand. It means I'm applying critical thinking skills, asking for evidence, and challenging vague language that can easily mislead people into magical thinking instead of personal agency. So many people are in this comment section saying I don't understand what I'm talking about, and yet they fail to provide any adequate evidence or information to convince me otherwise. If you wish to label everything in your life as manifesting, you are free to do so. I personally do not and therefore will not. To each their own. And I think that's a really important part to reiterate. The original video and this video here are a reflection of my personal truth. I have the opportunity to live a life that I'm very happy with. I have a great career. I have a very supportive partner. I have a great circle of friends, and I have lots of really privileged opportunities that have come my way. Now, my truth is that all of those great things that have happened for me in my life are not the result of manifestation. I believe that some of it came through self belief, some of it came through action, some of it came from being in the right place at the right time, some of it came from just dumb luck. And if someone else were in my exact situation, they may choose to believe that they manifested that reality. And honestly, that's fine by me. Your personal belief in manifestation does not affect my life. While I don't believe in manifestation, I don't take personal issue with people who choose to believe it. I mean, obviously, unless you're taking that belief in manifestation and then you're packaging it into an online course or coaching program, then I take issue with it, such as I explained in this video here. But honestly, that's a conversation for later, and I do have another video coming soon, which we will discuss that even further. Now, before we get into the rest of the comments, I just want to mention this because it seemed to be something or an assumption that was made by many people who left comments disagreeing with me. And it's this assumption that I must be really unhappy with my life and I just have like a really bad mindset. And that's the reason I'm not able to manifest anything. And while obviously I know I don't need to justify myself or my life decisions to strangers on the internet, I do just think there's something to be said about recognizing the fact that two people can have two very different belief systems and still be equally as happy or successful in their lives. So if you have a great life and you choose to believe that's a result of manifestation, that's great for you. Maybe you also have a great life and you choose to believe that that's not the result of manifestation. That's my case. That's okay too. All that to say, if you are watching this video and you think I'm wrong and you think I don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay. I genuinely want you to pursue your truth, what is true for you. I want you to believe in it wholeheartedly in whatever way is going to allow you to create the life that you want. Okay, let's get back to the next comment. This one says, manifesting is real. You are doing it every day. What you focus on the most expands. My life has changed for the better the last couple of years, ever since I have been consciously creating. I give myself what I want. I lived my life the other way, and I'll never go back. My life has changed for the better. I saw lots of comments like this one on that video. Specifically, you're going to see, I think, 3 comments that we're going to look at today, and they all start with that same line, manifesting is real. And I just find that interesting how often that phrase showed up, because I think for me, it signals that perhaps this is really a very deeply held belief that a lot of people have. And again, like the rant I just went on, I want the record to show that if you're watching this video and you believe in manifestation and you think that everything good that has happened in your life is a result of the fact that you manifested, that's fine. That said, and I think this is going to come up a lot in all of the comments that we're going to look at today, one person's anecdotal experience of,
Well, I believed in manifestation and my life got better, therefore it's real.
to me, is not solid enough evidence that it is real. As I say over and over again in any of my content, specifically critiquing the coaching industry, one person's personal experience is not universally applicable. But coming back to this specific comment, I tend to believe that most of us in our lives want to feel better, we want to feel empowered, we want to have control over our lives, or feel like we have control over our lives, and we want to accomplish the things that we dream about. To me, however, this comment does not disprove my statement from that original video where I said that a lot of the results that you achieve in your life are because you set a goal, you have belief in your capability to achieve that goal, and you put in the work and the effort to make it happen. I write my goals that way because if I can kind of get into the mindset of having my goals already accomplished, it gets me excited and more motivated to take action towards making them happen. So what I mean when I say that manifestation diminishes and negates your personal efforts, I mean that these coaches will tell you to get clear on your goals, to visualize it happening, to take aligned action. And then when you actually end up achieving the goals that you set out to accomplish, they accredit it all to manifestation. When the reality is you put in a lot of effort to make that thing happen. So whereas manifestation says your positive energy is the thing that called in everything that you wanted, the reality is your positive thought and your desire to achieve those things is what motivated you to figure out how you were going to make it happen. And it allowed you to actually put in the work to achieve that goal. And some people might say in response to that,
Well, that's exactly what manifestation is.
and if so, great. Then I guess that's something we actually agree on. I just don't call that manifesting. I call it planning. I call it taking responsibility. I call it executing on the plan. What I think I push back most on here is this idea that what we focus on makes it real, or that your thoughts alone are causally responsible for your reality. Further, when we take this concept of manifestation, conscious creation, whatever you choose to call it, and we apply it on a universal level, especially to situations like illness or financial hardship or trauma, etc. And to be clear, I'm not saying that this specific commenter is doing that. I'm just saying when we do that, if we believe that conscious creation is what's responsible for our reality. We obviously can't cherry pick where we apply that to, so we're applying it universally to everything in our lives, good or bad. If you hold the belief that manifestation is the thing that's going to improve your life, it often implies, allegedly in my opinion, that people who are suffering are experiencing that as a result of not manifesting correctly. And that's where I believe this starts to become deeply harmful. At the end of the day, I tend to believe that not everything in our lives is a result of what we've focused on, just because, like, the world is not a fair place sometimes. And I think it's okay to admit that we aren't always in control of what happens to us. But I would love to hear your thoughts on that particular statement in the comments down below. Okay. Let's move to the next comment. Manifestation is real. There it is again. We are taught that these things are unrealistic. That's why manifestation doesn't work. What you think of, you become. Manifestation is highly subjective. So for me, manifestation is real. I don't believe, I know, because you believe what does exist. But I know it exists. If science doesn't accept the idea of manifestation, then dive deeper into the topic. What about using mathematics, quantum physics like quantum entanglement, quantum mechanics, quantum realm, or any quantum topics? I know it's a bit complex, but these topics may prove manifestation is real. The reality is not what you think. We live in a universe of infinite possibilities. What about understanding the power of the subconscious mind? Your subconscious mind shapes your reality. Manifestation is real. It was, is, and will be. The whole idea of manifestation is extremely powerful, dangerous. Here are some of the things that I manifested. Excellent grades on my exam. I got an A plus in all of my studies, and I did not put any effort on my study. Perfect skin. I manifest clear, fair, and glowing skin. Why do you think manifestation is fake? It is a critical moment for people because they don't understand how powerful they are. All right, this one covers a lot, so we're gonna break it down piece by piece. Where I will give credit to this commenter is that they do say that manifestation is subjective and that for them, it is real. Much to my point that my truth is that manifestation is not real. If we believe that manifestation is subjective, those who choose to believe it is real, for them, it is real. If you're saying that focusing on something helps you to believe that it's real, it keeps you motivated or maybe more likely to see the opportunities that align with the things you want, then that is amazing. Again, I want us all to live in a world where we can believe whatever is most conducive to us actually being able to accomplish the things we want in life, provided you aren't causing harm to other people in the process of doing so. What's tricky here with this particular comment is the jump from manifestation is subjective to the scientific justification, if you want to call it that. Those of you, again, who are OGs here on the channel, you've watched lots of my content, you probably know my thoughts on the argument surrounding manifestation, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, etc. If you're new here, you can watch this video here. Once someone starts referencing things like quantum entanglement, quantum mechanics, quantum physics, etc., as proof that manifestation is real, I immediately become highly skeptical that they actually know what they're talking about. Specifically because more often than not in my observation, these particular topics are misinterpreted by people who don't actually know what they're talking about and or cherry picked by people who choose to select certain parts of those theories to make manifestation sound more legitimate or scientific than it actually is. If someone can point me to a specific scientifically backed peer-reviewed research study that demonstrates that manifestation is real, I promise you, I will read it and potentially change my tune. And do not say the double slit experiment because way too many gurus have already butchered and manipulated that experiment into arguably one of the most misrepresented studies of all time. So if you have other proof other than that, please message it to me, leave it in the comments below, etc. Now, before we move on, I do think it's important to address also the examples that were shared in this particular comment. Again, much like I've seen time and time again, the commenter here is using their own anecdotal experience as evidence that manifestation is real. And I'm not here to deny anyone's personal experience, but I would question whether or not these results happened because of manifestation? Meaning, could there possibly be other explanations for those results? Perhaps your natural ability, your IQ, your genetics, or maybe some level of unacknowledged effort that you're choosing to ignore here. Much to the point I made in my original video, I personally, and maybe this is just my ego talking, I cannot wrap my head around the idea of not taking credit for the things that I've accomplished. Like, surely I wouldn't choose to start a YouTube channel, grow it to 32,000 subscribers, and then say,
Oh, look at this thing that I manifested.
no, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to take credit for my time, my effort, my ideas, and of course, all the support from you watching my videos. We built this channel together. There wasn't some like external universal force that got us to this place. It was me making the videos and you sitting at home, driving around, doing whatever you're doing right now, watching the videos. To me, again, this is just my opinion. I didn't manifest anything. Okay, and once again, similar to the last comment, the final line where this person says, it is a critical moment for people because they don't understand how powerful they are. I think, again, this can be where the harm piece starts to really creep in. Because while this statement might sound empowering, like,
You're responsible for creating everything you ever want. All you have to do is just believe.
it's also directly implying that people who are sick or maybe struggling just haven't realized how powerful they are yet. Or worst, suggesting that if they are responsible for their reality, then they are the cause for their own suffering. And so personally, I can't get behind that kind of thinking. So those are my thoughts on that. Be sure to share yours and let's move on to the next comment. Manifestation is real. And it is a birthright to get and achieve your desires. What is not real is the law of attraction and its hocus pocus rituals. I learned about it since 2006, stopped practicing for a while, and found tarot readers / new age religion practice. Honestly, nothing worked for me with any of its teachings. You will like the law of assumption, though. It does give you all the credit for your manifestation. Actually, it held one accord every manifestation in your life as it is a result of one's assumptions. It also does not need any rituals or alignment or intervention of outside power. No wait for divine timing. You manifest what you believe / assume is true. I find it working better in my humble experience. Now, my response to this one is brief, but I did want to include it because law of assumption is something that I'm going to be exploring in a future deep dive video. And to me, my very surface level understanding is that law of assumption is just a repackage of the same concept. Essentially, whatever you believe to be true is what creates your reality. And as I've said repeatedly, I do think there is value and merit to the argument that a positive mindset and having clear goals is what is going to lead you to success. However, I don't personally see that as proof that manifestation exists. Further, I don't doubt that this person's life improved while practicing these beliefs, but I also think it's worth asking why that is. So many of the responses on that original video of mine, in my opinion, fail to recognize that correlation does not equal causation. And so to that I say, is it the belief itself that created the change, or did the belief cause you to change your focus, change your behavior, change your sense of possibility, and ultimately change your willingness to take action? Still, I really do appreciate feedback like this because it helps to contribute to the conversation, and it's always fascinating to me to hear how other people apply these particular theories to their own life circumstance. Last comment here, and this one is a bit of a doozy. So buckle up, grab your snacks, grab your drinks. Let's get into it. Okay, I'm sorry, but you're not making any sense. I'll step out on a limb and assume manifestation didn't work for you. Not everyone has the wherewithal to manifest. We don't live in a perfect world, and we need to believe in something that gives us purpose. We all live in the same world, but view life through different lenses. Isn't that what makes us human? Everyone is not as practical as you and your peanut gallery, who, by the way, needs validation for their own failures. We don't all follow the same religion. Not everyone has the same political views. But when you condemn something that works for others, including yours truly for over 12 years, because I assume you probably failed at it, then you sit on your high horse on YouTube and make light of it, ranting about confidence bias. Lady, please stop. It makes you sound idiotic and bratty. There's too much evidence of the contrary. And don't get me started on the science. I won't waste my time and yours on that with someone as narrow minded. What works for one may not work for another, and vice versa. So please keep your non informative opinions to yourself. You're not doing anyone any favors. Have a great day. I want to be abundantly clear in my response here that I am not telling anyone what they need to believe. My intention with this channel in its entirety is to share my own experiences, my own thoughts, your experiences from those of you who are generous enough to submit your own stories, and reflect on those experiences critically. And in the context of this topic around manifestations specifically, I share these thoughts for those of you out there watching who may feel completely disillusioned by the way that manifestation is presented to us and sold to us online. This is an opportunity for us to open up this conversation about how these beliefs are marketed, particularly when they're tied to very expensive coaching programs and packages, and a lot of these promises of like guaranteed success. And so it's very evident to me from this particular comment, but also many of the other comments that I chose not to include, and my own content from back in 2018, 2019, that a lot of people have very deeply rooted personal identities in their beliefs surrounding manifestation. And so I think it's important for me to definitively state that my personal choice to question manifestation and to state that I personally do not believe that it is real or that it is a thing is not a personal attack on the people who choose to believe otherwise. It's okay for people to think critically and openly about the systems and the ideologies that we practice in. In fact, I think that's the biggest part of personal growth. And that's a big reason why my personal beliefs now in 2025 are so much different than they were 6, 7, or 8 years ago. And I just think that making the assumption that someone must have failed at it or that they're idiotic and bratty because they don't agree with what you choose to believe doesn't really open the conversation or the opportunity for us to have that productive discourse where you can listen to me and I can listen to you, and we have the opportunity to learn and grow from each other. Beyond this, the reason why I included this particular comment is because of the specific claim where it says there's so much evidence to the contrary, but they fail to show me what that evidence is. I'm so sick of people having these arguments of,
Well, you don't know what you're talking about.
okay, well, what is it that I don't know what I'm talking about? And what is it about what I said specifically that is wrong? Like if I say 2 plus 2 equals 5, someone in the comments can go,
Well, actually, 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 5 because if you put 2 and 2 together and you count 1, 2, 3, 4, you only get 4, you don't get 5.
that to me represents the evidence that I need to understand that my statement of 2 plus 2 equals 5 is wrong. And so to just say that someone is incorrect without providing any actual evidence as to what the science is that you mentioned isn't really a valid opportunity for us to have a conversation and to understand where the other person is coming from. And I'm absolutely open to seeing the evidence that manifestation is real, but I've already mentioned it so many times in this video. So far, no one, not one single person out of those 500 comments has been able to provide me the links or the titles of legitimate, science-backed, peer-reviewed, verifiable studies to show the evidence that manifestation is real. What's typically offered instead, as we've already seen, is personal stories and outcomes, which, to be clear, I recognize are likely valuable to the individual that is sharing them as their experience, but they don't prove the mechanism that manifestation actually works. Okay, I just want to conclude things here by saying that if you believe that manifestation is the cause for good things in your life, then that is totally valid. I really just think that we as individuals have a responsibility to really think about where those beliefs are coming from. Further to that, it's important to think about how those beliefs are being used and whether or not they can actually hold up under scrutiny, especially when we are using them to sell our solutions to very real life problems. At the end of the day, I'm not here to tell you what to believe, and I'm also not here to tell you that what you believe is incorrect. I'm just here to share my personal thoughts and to invite you into a conversation, or an opportunity rather, to use your own experiences to think critically about the things that you do choose to believe in. If you made it this far, be sure to share your thoughts down in the comments down below. I look forward to continuing the conversation there. Thank you so much to my channel members for making this content possible, specifically those in the Mastermind VIP, as well as my rich friends in the Billionaire tier. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and maybe share it with someone who you think will enjoy it. Take care. comb your hair. And I'm gonna leave you on this video here because I just wanna know at what point society decided we all need to be obsessed with making so much money doing absolutely everything in our lives. Okay, let me know. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.